Hi everybody, welcome to Inking on the Fly with me, Amy Jasper. Hi. I am excited to share with you a technique card today that is showing off some masking techniques with sponging and also a really fun kind of way to do a bow. Oops. So that's kind of, the light doesn't catch that well, does it? Anyway, welcome. Thank you for joining me. Don't forget to click on that subscribe button and the like button if you like what I have to share with you today. Subscribes help me to get more subscribes. So I appreciate that so much. Thank you, and let's get started. Okay. So for this design, if you have a kit that you were given by me to do this card, then you can get your kit ready and open it up, and we can work on this together. Just go ahead and pause the video as you need to so that you can catch up if I'm going too fast. That's the beauty of television. Okay. So I'm just folding the card base, and then we can just put that aside out of the way. And then we're going to work on the masking technique to start with. So here I have a stitched rectangle, and I've cut shimmery white cardstock for the stitched rectangle. Basic white cardstock would work as well. And then we have these Meadow dies also cut out of the shimmery white cardstock. What I like about the shimmery white cardstock is that you can use a little bit of water on it and it won't get any bubbling or flaking or pilling. But it also has a little bit of a sparkle, and I don't know if it can catch on the video, but I like that little bit of sparkle. It's kind of nice. Okay, so we're going to do some sponging. I'm just going to put down another little scrap piece of paper underneath here because I just want to keep my other scrap paper tidy for the sake of your video, of your viewing pleasure, if you will. So for sponging this technique, I am using my blends brushes from Stampin' Up. So I have my brushes are designed, or I have organized my brushes such that each one is sort of designated for a color collection or a couple color group. So this is my pink one right here, and this one is my yellow / orange kind of colors. So pink / coral / maybe a little bit of reds on there, and then this one's more the yellows. So that's how I organize that's how I don't have to have like all of the colors in my blending brushes. Okay, so I am using polished pink and Daffodil Delight for this color blend. And I always like to start with the lighter color to begin with. So we'll use that Daffodil Delight, pick up a little bit of ink on my blending brush. And I can do a light kind of overall coverage, not overall, but just a light coverage. I'm kind of thinking that I want things to stay lighter in the top left corner and get a little darker in the bottom right corner. So that's sort of my mental state as I sponge and color. Another way you can do this technique is with a spritzing tool. So if you prefer that kind of technique, again, the shimmery white cardstock is awesome for that, but you can put re-inker and some rubbing alcohol or water in your spritzer and then just spritz over top. It would probably be a pretty quick way of doing this, but I chose to use my sponges. So it'll be a different look depending on which tools you use. So I am just going to take my sponge with the Daffodil Delight ink and I'm just going to carefully go over top, holding my Meadow die really steady. I want to get the imprint. It's acting like a mask, so I want to make sure it's not going to move, which is pretty easy with this one because it just stays put mostly. Or it's straight, like there's not a lot going on with this one. So it's a little easier with this one. Some of the other ones are a little more complicated. So then you end up with kind of a absence of color where the mask was. And I can do that a couple of times over top, layering over top of itself. We want to create kind of the like depth of color. So by doing this in layers, we can create layering of color, which is super fun. So we'll start with all of the yellow, or do all the yellow first, and then we can go in and throw on some pink as well. So I think that's pretty good. I've got like 3 little branches of color, and every time I do this, it goes differently. So it's going to be different again this time. So let's go in with this pattern here, this die cut, one of the other Meadow dies. And this time I'm going to go in with, we're going to go in with pink with this one, I think. So this is again polished pink. So this one's a little trickier because it has lots of, more detail all in one spot. So I have to be a little bit more careful with getting my ink in there so that I don't rip or crease or wrinkle my die. So I'm just going to go in really carefully. I'm using smaller movements than I did with the long skinny die that I was using. And I am going to get some streaking with this brush because of the technique I'm using right now, but that's okay. We'll be adding more ink and blending that out a little bit as we go along here. So you can see I'm holding it in place as I go. The darker I put the color on, the more, the sharper my masked outline is going to be because of just that contrast that I'm putting down. See? So fun! I love it. Okay. So I can maybe do another one of those. Let's put one down here. This one down here in this corner is going to mostly be kind of hidden, but we'll put it in there just to have a hint of it showing behind my bow and the or these pieces, these dies. I don't know. Sometimes I can't talk. Keeping in mind that the intent is once we're done all this masking, we're going to keep, these dies are going to be part of our project. So I like the idea of considering how they look as well, not just where my ink goes down. So right now I've got this one's turning out quite pretty pink. So I'm happy with that. So then I have this third die here. This one I'm going to add color. Where do I want to put this one? Let's put one up high. I don't know. How about over here? Let's do one over here. I'm going to do more yellow with this one, I think. Oops. Just not sure where I want to put this one. Let's go down here. So this one I'm working with more yellow, and this one's again easier to sponge than the previous one I was just using, because I can work from the center and move out, and it's quite, it doesn't wiggle too much, which is nice. And it's not quite so delicate there. I do have to be careful with the stem. It is a little more delicate on the stem. that's a little more subtle there. That's okay. Let's do one up high. We'll go right up there, maybe. No, there. Just placing them where it feels right in the moment. And every time I do this, it's a little bit different. So that's kind of the fun of it too, right? I think. So if you don't have blending brushes or spritzers, then you can use sponge daubers would work quite well, or a sponge. All right. Ooh, that's fun. So that shows up quite nice on there. I like that. Okay, I'm going to do this one again with a little bit more pink so that this die is going to end up a little more on the orange side. So that's going to be fun, I think. So let's throw a bit of pink down here. And then we're almost done this stage, this layered masking kind of effect. So you can see I'm really making sure I'm holding this down securely. Oh, that was, dang it. So I just put it in the yellow ink. Let's put the yellow ink over here. Okay, we're gonna go pink because we're working with pink right now. There we go. If you ever end up with accidentally getting a darker color in a lighter ink pad, you can use a bit of paper towel to sponge that off, like just absorb some of the ink that got on there where you didn't want it on the wrong ink pad. I ended up with pink on a craft white ink pad once. That was fun. I actually ended up having to really take out quite a bit of the ink. Ooh, that's pretty. On that one because it really didn't work very well. I didn't want pink on my white ink pad. So I'm going to do one more of this little guy down here. A little bit lighter, I think, than my first one. And then we're almost done this stage. So it's kind of fun. The more color you lay down, the darker everything's going to end up being. And the more layers you have. So that's kind of what I've got so far. So it's a little bit rough over here. So I'm going to take my colors and blend a little bit more just without the masks, just to soften some of my edges a little bit. And I really want to play up some more of the yellow up there. And then I think we're going to be good. Okay, a little bit more yellow just to soften this corner a little bit. But again, I wanted this corner lighter, so it ended up with more yellow than I intended, and that's okay. Every time I do it, it's a little different. I'll show you the other one that I did. I've done two so far. So I'll be able to show you how different they each are. It's just kind of cool. All right, I think I'm good. I think I like how we've got some very defined pink sections, very defined Daffodil Delight sections, and then you can still see the different colors in there and the different masked images. So that's working for me. So then I want to do a little bit of spritzing because on my original card, you can see there's a bit of like spatter. It's basically water spatter. So I feel like that kind of creates the look of when the light catches the dew in the breeze, or the little bits of fluff. If you're sitting in a meadow and you're enjoying the beautiful nature in the meadow, then you might see some fluff in the air floating and getting caught in the sunlight. So that's kind of what these spots are going to create. So I just have water in my water painter here, and I just got it started by squeezing it a little bit, and then I can flick water on there and let it, and then I'll set that aside and let it dry while we do the other parts of the card. Okay. So then I will show you, these ones ended up quite pretty. I like the different colors. So this one has a bit more orange, pink, and yellow. So that's good too. I'm going to set that aside as well. Okay, next we have this lovely Lattice die cut here. This is Lattice. They're just pre-cut, laser cut pieces, craft coloring, which is lovely. I have used the craft coloring before, but today we're going to make it into a black lattice because I wanted a little more contrast. So let's take our paper again, a little bit of water on there. And I'm just going to, this is like the hardest thing you'll ever do. It's not, this is super easy. I've got my Tuxedo Black Momento ink pad, and I am just dabbing it on directly from the ink pad. Now this is a little bit, the paper is a little bit delicate, so you don't want to be rough with it. I'm mostly just dabbing and then doing a little wiggle just to make sure that the ink covers really nicely. Dabbing and a shimmying and a shaking. All right, I think that's pretty good coverage. So then we can set that aside to dry. And we can grab the next thing we want to do is do our little label. This die cut is also from the Meadows dies. So of course this is basic black cardstock. I'm going to stamp on this with Versamark ink, which of course is just out of my reach. So I've got my Versamark ink. I have my Thinking of You stamp from the In the Meadows stamp set. And even though Stampin' Up! Doesn't have the embossing buddy anymore, I still use it because they should have it. You can find anti-static bags like this elsewhere if you don't have one already. I do find them very helpful for embossing. Just keeps all the embossing powder from going where you don't want it to go. So Thinking of You just fits perfectly, of course, because it was designed to fit on this label. And then I can go in and put on my embossing powder. This is white embossing powder. If you have other colors, I think some of like other colors of embossing powder would be pretty fun as well. Gold would look quite nice with this, I think. But if you happen to have yellow embossing powder or pink, those would look really cool with this as well. So I still got embossing powder where I don't want it, but it's not too bad. And then I can go in with my heat tool. Pardon the noise, my friends. Now the trick with the heat tool is not to overheat, right? So you only want to heat it until it changes from a matte powdery look to the glossy finish. And in this case, you can really see the whiter part is embossed and the sort of duller white section is not done yet. So there we go. All right. So then we can bring back our elements and put it all together. So you can see now that those water spots have dried, creating those sun spots, I guess you could call them. So now we can go ahead and attach our beautiful die cut papers. I'm just going to use my handy dandy Tombow liquid glue. Less is more with the Tombow liquid glue. It helps if it actually comes out. Come on, Tombow. There we go. I'm going to have mine poking out the side a little bit, so I have to be mindful. I don't want too much adhesive on these two ends because that's not going to be attached to my card. So I just mostly put the glue in sort of the larger spaces where there's room. So this guy's gonna go, I'm looking at my other cards so I see what I want to do here. Ooh, I like that. So he's gonna go right about there. Loving the contrast with this yellow at the background, in the background here. That looks pretty cool. And then I will attach my longer skinny one. Again, the top is going to poke up, so I don't want to put too much adhesive on the top. And it's kind of long, so I don't want to put too much adhesive on the bottom either, because I know that I'm going to have to trim it later. So I'm just going to put this guy right here, I think. So I'm going to trim that bottom bit that's overlapping at the bottom. And then my beautiful bachelor button, I think it's called. That's what I'm told. Usually they're blue, apparently. I don't know. I know some flowers, but I don't know my flowers as well as others may know them. Oh, I don't, definitely. I only know what I know. So this little guy, he's gonna go over here. I don't know. How about there? That feels right. Maybe there. We'll try that. See how that feels. I like the contrast of color that's happening here. This is really fun. So this guy's not sticking down very well, but that's okay because we're going to have some stuff hanging out down there anyways, so we don't have to worry too much about that. So I'm just going to go ahead and trim the bottom, oops, of these. Trim my tails, if you will. So pretty. Okay. Then I'm going to be handling my white cardstock. So I'm a little nervous because I have quite a bit of ink on my fingers. So beware of that when you start bringing in your white cardstock again. Actually, before I do that, we're going to apply our ribbon. Now, this ribbon is being tied in a way that may not be familiar to you. There are familiar elements to the way I'm going to tie it, but this is kind of maybe not something you've done before. So I'm going to do this as slow as I can, and you're welcome to pause the video and replay it in a slower speed, whatever you need so you can see. So I am starting by tying a single knot. So you'll notice that I gotta get the width, just the sizing right here. So I have more, probably twice as much ribbon coming up from on the top side of what I'm doing right now, on what you're seeing on the table, than I do at the bottom. So this is about 6 inches, and this is going to be about double that ish. So then I can tie a single knot like so, and I want it to stay close to the side. So that's where I'm wanting my bow to be. And so that's pretty normal. So then I make my one loop like I normally would for a bow, but instead of carrying on and wrapping this around to create the rest of my bow, first I'm going to, I've got my single loop there. I'm going to place it, like hold it up. My finger here is actually holding the knot steady so that this hand is free. And then this is where it gets a little tricky to show you what I'm doing. Then I'm going to take my long tail here and loop it like that, right? So then I have these loops, whoops, 2 loops, whoops, and it's getting loose because I've moved my hand. So it's important to keep your finger there to hold that steady. Okay, so now I've got a loop here and a loop here. And then I'm going to do another loop with that same, so this is that long tail still, I'm doing another loop, so like this. Okay, so now I have 2 loops here that are stacked on each other. They can be about the same size. And then on this side, I only have 1 loop and then the tail, okay? So then this shorter end on the right, we're going to carry on as if we were going to just finish tying our bow that we started. So this one is going to wrap around those 2 loops. I'm still holding that single knot tight. This one's going to wrap around those 2 loops, right? And then, just like you normally would, this end is going to go in between underneath, right? It's going to go through that loop that circle we created, or loop. The knot, the loopy part of the knot, I don't know what the word terms to use. Okay, so then that's gone through. So then we're holding the 2 loops on the right, but only that 1 loop that we pushed through just now on the left, and we're going to use those to tighten our strange looking mess of loops. So now I've got this messy business going on. So now I have to adjust my loops. So this loop here that I pulled, I know it's attached to my tail, so I can shorten that one really easily like I normally would when I'm fiddling with my bows. But this loop here is attached to this loop, and this loop actually. So that's the one that's kind of an interesting one to work with. So you'll know that the top part of the loop is going to adjust the top of this loop closest to you. See that? Right? But the bottom part of the loop, the underneath part down here, it's going to adjust this loop. And whenever we want to tighten this collection of loops, you want to hold the 2 loops on the right and the 1 loop on the bottom on the left and pull that tight. So this loop here is a little too thin for me, so I'm going to do some more adjusting. So you just keep adjusting until you are happy with the final loop structures. And then you have this a double bow. How cool is that? Okay, I think I'm good with it. This one's just a little, there we go. Da, da, da. So that's our double bow. So then I can trim the tails off of that little guy there. And then we can assemble our card from there. So I'm going to then take my card base and I'm going to attach my now dry black lattice with Tombow liquid glue or glue dots or whatever your glue of choice is. I like the Tombow liquid glue because I can just do a little dot of glue on those larger circles, like those closed circles. And I don't have to do all of them. Mostly I want to do the ends, the edges, the corners, and that should be good. So then that I'm going to place on my card front so that it is has an even border on the top, bottom, and left side. And I can press down those closed circles to adhere it. Yay! Okay, we're almost there. We're almost there. This is the easy part, the assembly, right? Okay, and then this guy is going to go on with dimensionals. I'm trying to find my mini dimensionals. I don't have any handy, but I have some that are cut. I like the mini dimensionals because I feel more frugal when I use them. But sometimes I just cut my regular dimensionals in half, and then that's almost as good. Because then I can use more, and I feel like I have more kind of coverage, you know what I mean? Okay, so that is going to go on my card. It's going to go, so the lattice went slightly to the left of center, right? So this one I want to put slightly to the right of center. So it's going to be kind of like that. Good, good. And then finally, we can attach our thinking of you. And this one, I'm just going to use my black dimensionals. So our thinking of you is going to also go right of center. And by doing that, we create the illusion of everything sort of being, well, it's not creating an illusion. Everything feels more balanced to me because these have, I don't know, because this is moved over, it feels like everything's more centered as a collection, if that makes sense. So then it feels all together feels more balanced. So I don't know if I want my ribbon on top of my, no, I want it underneath or just there. There we go. And there we have it. So that's our masked layering sponging technique. I don't know what to call it. It's hard to come up with these names. It's just a layered masking technique. Let's call it that. So there, that's what that is. It's very fun and everyone turns out differently. So right or left to right is the order in which I made these cards. So this was my very first one. This was my second one. It ended up quite a bit darker. And then this one yeah, they're all just slightly different, but they're all quite lovely, and I'm very happy with them. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you will definitely click on the like button for this video and click on the subscribe button so that you can see more of my videos as I share them with you. Thanks for watching, and you can find more details about the supplies that I used in the description on this YouTube video.